Climbing ancient temples is dangerous.
But it's also really fun! Hello, my fellow hunters, and welcome to some more juicy Rise. As juicy as the fruit Bishaten sends flying.
Right.
And Bishaten is right, because today we have ourselves a full Bishaten hunt to enjoy, to dissect, and generally comb for every tiny little detail. Such as the flooded forest that of course it takes place on, looking absolutely gorgeous. It is a joy to see that map and slagged off back once more. The water really is quite prevalent. We begin then by attacking an innocent bystander in the form of Great Wroggi, who, well, is looking great. I feel like every monster that's not in World and Iceborne but is in Rise will be looking the best they have ever looked. And Great Wroggi tries his best to put up a fight, but of course he is quite the low tier monster and is very quickly, you know what, promptly ignored. Though I will say the poison effects are very, very much gorgeous, and just in general, seeing him in action again is purely lovely. So we head down to a nice actual flooded part for an audience with the king himself in the form of Mr. Ludroth, and he again looking absolutely great. Wroggi, not quite done, decided to follow, and just seeing, I can't get over how much I love the particle effects for the monster's elemental attacks in Rise. I can't stress enough how much to me it looks like paint swirling in the air, like watercolor just being bending around the place. I just think it's absolutely charming, and I am a big fan of the choice. Now, one thing to note is that the map at the bottom left is a little bit mysterious. It has almost fog of war. These swirly cloud-like things covering what is the temple on the flooded forest that we saw everyone climbing. So this is quite interesting to me. Presumably then you have to explore every map for the first time, but in any case they do seem to imply that there is a mystery here, but we'll get to that later. Our Royal Ludroth friend mainly is used for a what is essentially lift to the main target as we head through the flooded corridors and zones to find Mr. Bishaten down a ledge.
Are you not entertained?
And thus, combat begins in earnest, and the first thing that gets me about this is how useless Royal Ludroth's per-mounted Punisher is. I feel like it barely did anything. A couple water spits and then he kinda fell over and then attacked in the wrong direction. In any case, Bishaten is the star here, and he begins with his signature fruit throwing, and that is just so lovely. But what gets me is that I can't believe I didn't really con onto this. No, I can't believe I didn't notice that he is Leviathan skeleton, right? Is that's what's going on here? He looks and acts remarkably similar to Somnicanth, both of them rearing up onto their back, sticking high into the air, the arms spread, the same movements, the liveness. I think it is a fanged beast in the base of a Leviathan, which I think is a really lovely idea. I am absolutely all for that. It's very cool that obviously, yes, you can use skeletons for, let's say, a brute wyvern, but cover it in fur and give it some mammal properties, and thus you have a, you know, fanged beast. I really do adore that. For example, to me, you could totally have said that Bambaro was a fanged beast, but, you know, that aside, the fight itself then, as you might expect from something monkey-y, it's very fast, very agile, he's very flippy, uses his tail really well, both for mobility and for slams. He's just wonderfully quirky and looks like a right ball of fun to fight. I mean, moments of personality like this, where he passes a fruit from his hand over his back and catches it in his tail, I mean, that just sells you a monster. It's a level of detail that a lot of games just don't get, and I, for one, am absolutely a huge fan of it. So, let's actually talk that fruit then. He has a range of coloured persimmons he can pull out of seemingly nowhere from behind his wing, which I think is wonderful, and, well, he absolutely pelts them at you. Well, not all of them. He has orange ones to clobber, purple to poison, he gets out a yellow one, passes it to his tail, jumps in the air and crushes it with said tail, which causes it to generate a blinding flash attack. He really is a full-on walking bag of tricks, and it just seems like such a nice tempo to the fight. It's, oh, what will he pull out next? How will I deal with it? Can I turn it against him? And yes, you can turn it against him. But before we get to that, we do indeed have a Bishaten Wyvern ride, and this is promptly used to go once again attack an innocent bystander in the form of Great Wroggi. I mean, seriously, what has Great Wroggi done to this hunter? Everywhere he is trying to exist peacefully, he just gets attacked by weaponry and monster. He just wants to live his Wroggi life, and what's so wrong with that? Wroggi, like wrong Wroggi. I really tried. Anyway, so you know, Wyvern ride, so he doesn't really get to use Bishaten that much. He just literally transfers to the Wroggi and then uses the Wroggi to attack the Bishaten, and Wroggi's ride seems really quite effective. Of course, you can poison the monster, get a lot of slaps in. Honestly, the raptors seem very good, to be honest. Uchi was always really good in the demo, so that's kind of a nice way to make them more relevant as the lower tier monsters. And his Punisher as well does seem to be at least a lot more effective than Ludroth's was.
Oh, it's over.
Then we are treated to a mid-hunt gear change where he decides to stop using that pathetic longsword and bring out the godlike divine-slaying Bash King that is the hunting horn, and proceeds to blow Bishaten away with the power of music. And therein we get to what I believe is just the best part of this entire experience. When you flinch him and knock him down, he will drop his fruit that you can then go gather and lob them back at him in a supreme ironic twist of how do you like it? Flash him, poison him, and and the wonderful thing is you could go knock over a Bishaten, grab his fruit, and then use the fruit against a different monster on the map that might be your actual target. That might be a bit too much effort involved, but come on. And then, once again, we're treated to another swap of weapon, and this time it goes for Insect Glaive. I mean, really? Why would you? I mean, come on, that's just, why would you downgrade like that? I'm joking, of course. Insect Glaive is still a wonderfully fun and viable weapon, as all of them are in every Monster Hunter game. It's one of the best things that they do. The weapons are the Chimera weapons, which are kind of like the base iron look, and we return to the fight, and at this point, you know, it continues as it continues. He is very agile, fast, Leviathan-y, snaky, spinny. He has his fruit, he has his jumps, he has his just Bishatenness, and you've been seeing it all wonderfully as we've been getting on. But the map itself, even just this zone, having firstly, of course, it filled with water, but then surrounded by this wall of rock, only breaking to offer tunnels to the rest of the map, roots growing down into it, vines hanging from above, little streams of sunlight and shade alternating and mottled. It really creates this awesome little battle arena, and it's nestled centrally in the map. It is so cool to see the flooded forest reborn into such magnificence. So the hunt obviously eventually continues, and we even get to have a little see of the piranha trap endemic life that Bishaten gets lured into and absolutely savaged, and then I think does his own version of the Prance emote, which is just, I mean, I love this guy. He's just so bursting with goodness. Oh, yes, indeed. And then we also get to see our floating fishy friend who attracts monsters to attack him. And this is kind of cool because the hunter puts a trap underneath it, knowing that Bishaten will be drawn to the fish and therefore drawn to the trap next to this freshly killed poor Slagtoff, which is definitely a little bit of a shame, but that's all good. And then, of course, eventually Bishaten does fall and is slain. So that's really awesome to see. There's nothing particularly crazy to spot in the background, sadly, so instead I'll give you something, I don't know, like Nargacuga! Oh yeah, it's run by an NPC in Kimura Village, so maybe this doesn't 100% guarantee it, but I mean, that's the full actual set, so... Oh, Nargacuga confirmed! Look, okay, I didn't know what else to say this, so enjoy it. Then we return finally to the temple, which is really fun to climb from the looks, eventually getting up there, and you'll notice as he's exploring the temple, the fog on the map is disappearing, so you do indeed need to actually explore the map and make it visible to you. But the thing of note for me, outside of the incredible view, is they make a really big deal to highlight this little nick in the temple at the bottom right. They're like, what is it? Is it a secret? Is it a part of the temple missing? What's going on there? It's a mystery. And that's what they've left it at. So, can you go in the temple? Will there be, as I said, a story beat in here? Will you learn something about a mystical ancient monster that we never learned when the Flooded Forest was first here? Because obviously this wasn't a thing. So, what is going on with this? I really like that. I kinda wish that there was an actual zone in here, and you could go in it and the monster could smash in and have an in-temple ruin fight, but that doesn't look to be the case, so I can't help but think there's something story connected here. But let me know what your thoughts are. So, there you guys have it, a Bishaten hunt on the new Flooded Forest, looking just gorgeous. Like if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more, and please consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. It really does help more than you know. A goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.